Hello and welcome guys, my name's Badger and welcome to another painting video, and in today's video we'll be painting up the Blood Angels Legion. It's going to be a tabletop ready video for the Horus Heresy era kind of Blood Angels. So without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. Alright, here is our primed miniature, and starting off with a thinned down Mephiston red, we're going to get on the first layer. Probably as per usual, we're going to require potentially 3 or 4 layers with this, depending on how thin you thin the paints, of course. That goes without saying. So just get these first layers down, wait for each individual layer to dry. Gonna make a nice delicious cup of tea, and probably put a film on, listen to this amazing video. Obviously that goes without saying, but get that paint on, and once it's on, just wait for it to dry. Don't let it pool anywhere too much, otherwise it will provide some weird texture. As you can see, this is after the first bit is dried. We're going to come back with another coat and basically repeat this previous step. And I suspect after this one, we'll need one more coat of paint. This is now going on to our third coat right now, I believe. Slightly off camera, like an absolute legend. I keep moving the camera around and forgetting. So, onwards with the third layer of paint. It looks like in some spots a fourth layer may be required. Your mileage may vary, and you may very well just be able to do it in 2. However, once that's dried, we're going to move over to Agrax Earthshade Wash, and we are going to put that into all of the recesses. We're not coating the entire previous coat of paint. We're just putting it into the recesses, those weird sort of toe bits, the knee joint, and also we are going to get around the back of the leg as well. We are going to tidy it up if required later, which is probably going to be the case in this particular situation. But yeah, just run that shade into all the recesses, and if you make a mistake, you can quickly use a damp or wet brush to remove any excess which has gone anywhere. But don't worry, if you do make mistakes, you can also just go and do exactly what we're about to do. And that is go back with some more Mephiston red and tidy up any parts which got coated with the previous shade. So those toe things up around here is going to need a bit of paint. Up around the edges, because that shade does sort of get everywhere if you don't pay 100% attention. I definitely don't have that issues. Everything I do is absolutely perfect. That goes without saying. And so we're just going to tidy up around the back of the leg there where the shade went. Get that bit of the panel there, because that always seems to get a bit of a mess. And then around the back of the foot as well, because we coat the entire thing pretty much. Making sure the top of that thigh plate is nice and red, as you can see. Just in case, we will get the undersuit as per usual with the German grey, I believe, in a bit. Alright, so moving on to the next stage, which is Evil Sunz Scarlet. Alright, we're going to do a big fat chunky edge highlight with this color. Going to make sure we get all of the upper facing edges, all of the edges of armor and stuff like that, anywhere which will catch A, light, and B, as sort of an edge of an armor. Nice thick highlight right down there at the bottom of the leg armor there. We've got around the feet, the sort of weird toe things, the back of the foot to do. All around these panel lines right there. All of these areas are going to get a dose. Then we're going to move on to Fire Dragon Bright. This is an orange. Normally, I would use a different color, but I thought for this occasion, we will try this recipe. I don't think I've personally used it before, but I've seen it seems to be quite popular, so we're giving it a go. Edge, using the brush, the side of the brush, in fact, and running the side of the brush along the edge of the armor is the best way to go. Sometimes, like right now, this top bit of armor will require the tip of the brush, as you can't use the edge. But where required, you're going to have to do it like this. Otherwise, the easiest way, as I said, is using the side of the brush. Just make sure that paint is watered down quite a bit. Certainly don't want it running off the brush and flooding the surface of the miniature, but you do want it flowing off the brush when you need it to. That makes sense. However, we are getting all these sort of edges with this Fire Dragon Bright. I am, as I said, trying to use more GW paints rather than using sort of other brands, certainly while painting GW miniatures at least. Saying that, we are moving on to, what is this? Caliban Green. I suspect we'll be doing the eye lenses now, in fact. Ah, I'm psychic. There we go. So we're going to start off over black. I did go and paint the eye lenses black just before this, just to tidy it up a little bit. But now we're going in with the Caliban Green. We're going to paint a narrow sort of streak of green, leaving a tiny bit of black above and a tiny bit of black below, sort of surrounding the greenness of the lens, if that makes any sense. I want to frame that green with a slither of black paint. Build up the layers. No rush. Unless maybe you have a tournament to do tomorrow, in which case there probably is a rush. The next paint being Warpstone Glow, a personal favourite of mine. I'm not being sarcastic there at all. This paint is slightly too thin down for my liking. Coverage of it is not ideal. In fact, I think I had to wait for this to dry a little bit. I think that is an issue with my own particular pot of paint. I would have had to thin it down at some point and evidently added too much water. I hope that your paint is superior to mine. However, making sure that is a narrow line of Warpstone Glow for those lenses, leaving some black above and below. Remember, if you do make a mistake, it is not the end of the world. You can always go back with a fine brush and a tiny bit of black paint just to frame that color again. Shape the lenses how you wish them to look. That's how I want them to look, so that's how they look. Right, moving on to the final, well, pretty much the final color, Moot Green. We want the inner part of the lens, the bit closest to the center of the face, as this bit right here, which I'm trying to get some paint on. As you can see, there is a decent color change and saturation as well on those interior parts of those lenses. I'm going to try and paint the left eye as well. Normally, I just try and focus on one lens, but apparently I'm attempting both. There we go. Putting another coat on just to increase that saturation a little bit more. As you can see, the paint is not exactly flowing too nicely. This particular paint is probably the opposite of the previous one. It's a bit too... I didn't thin it down quite enough. However, one will learn. I'm using White Scar. I personally use P3 Morrow White, but if you do not have that, White Scar will do the job just as well. So we're going to get some of that. We're going to make sure it flows. Not too thin, otherwise it would have completely soaked the entire lens. But get that very corner of the eye. Part of the area where you left some black, ideally. And then you can put that little dab of green in there, and that's pretty much the look we want. I'm happy with it. Now we're going to move on to the gold parts. So we're going to use Retributor armour, which is surprisingly enough a gold paint. We're going to get all of these rivet stud things. I'm just dabbing the brush onto each individual stud, just so you know I mean business. We are going to obviously add more gold paint to these things. We're only really getting the sort of tops of them, I guess. So it does seem to take me quite a while to get like all the way around these rivets. I don't know if it's just because the brush I use is absolutely horrific. It probably is, but I'm also stubborn, so I don't think I'll be changing this brush until basically I have no other choice. So anyway, work that paint on there. Take your time and relax, and everything will be fine. All right, now we can use some Leadbelcher as well. We're going to use that to paint these strap things right here, holding on. I don't know what these things do, to be honest. Anyway, we're going to paint these Leadbelcher. We're not going to forget to paint around the back. That's what we're going to do right now. Well done. And I've definitely forgotten that in the past. So don't you be like me. Make sure you paint the front and the back. And also get the sort of... the bits sort of going down, attaching to the body, I guess, like there. If that makes any sense. Doesn't really make any sense to me, but those bits right there, for example. Yeah, I'm pointing at it just so you know. Making sure we got a nice coat, because there's you can see that red in between the sort of crevices, so you need to make sure that's well covered. Then we're going to use some Reikland fleshshade. No, not on the steel. No, I know you were thinking that. No. We're using this colour on the gold. Unfortunately, some of this seems to have been off camera. It's a bit of a disaster. There's my Instagram for you to check out. Instagram.com/gloriousbadger will get you where you need to be. And so, using the fleshshade, you make sure you get all around these rivets, making sure it goes onto the red a little bit. As before, if you go too much, you can clean it up with a damp brush. Not the end of the world. And then we're going to wait for that to dry. And now we do the steel using some Nuln oil. So, Nuln oil. Get that steel well covered. Make sure it goes into those grooves. I think on the top left-hand bit there, I had a bit too much went on. I should have probably wicked some away from the surface, from the brush even, before applying it to the thing, but we fixed it. And finally, going back to Gehenna's gold. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Anyway, we're just getting the sort of upward, vertical, sky-facing bits of these rivets. And that's about it for this. I'm not going to go any brighter than that. I don't think. So we just want to stay in a nice gold. I was considering adding a bit of silver as a sort of specular highlight, but I didn't want to on this one. I want a nice warm gold, in my opinion. As you can see right there. And we're going to go back to the Leadbelcher again. We'll use that to do the highlights on this steel. And as I said before, we're not going to go to a higher brightness than this point right here. I don't think we really need to, but personal preference and all that sort of stuff. You can paint it how you wish. This is just how I like to. So, okay, and here we go. Here's the finished miniature. The only thing I haven't shown you is how to do the undersuit. But if you check out any of my other videos, you can use a dark grey on the undersuit, sort of between the armour panels at the back of the knees and over the butt and corner of the elbows. So use a dark grey. I usually use Vallejo German colour. German grey even. Although I have been recently using Skavenblight dinge and then a wash of Nuln oil over that. So I do apologise. That seems to have gone AWOL on this bit of footage, but it is very simple and easy. I am very, very happy with how this looks. And I will be painting more of them. Folks, thanks so much for hanging out with me today as we painted up this tabletop-ready Horus Heresy era Blood Angel. That's quite a lot to say. Hopefully you have liked this video. You've gleaned some bit of knowledge from it. Hopefully that is the main gist of it and to get you ready for the tabletop. Now in next week's video, we'll be painting up the Iron Hands. If you don't want to miss that video, make sure you've subscribed and hit the bell for notifications so you can check it out when the video goes live. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.